Welcome back to the European LCS, where Fnatic and the Unicorns of Love are doing a fan meet together, because at the end of the day, they're both in playoffs. They got a lot to play for left, and while the crowd is always cheering for Huni. As for us, though, we have reached the end of the regular season with a score left to settle. Let's take a look at the standings to see what we are playing for. There is a tie for 5th place between the Giants and Roccat. To break this tie, we will play a single match because neither team owns the head-to-head versus the other.
And if you're wondering why Gambit is going to promotion tournament instead of Elements having that tight spot, obviously it's because Elements has a 2-0 ahead, so only one tiebreaker remains. That'll be interesting to see how badly they want that 5th place seed. And if you look at the brackets, Deficio,
well,
you're nodding.
Oh, I thought you were...
No, I'm not going to steal the show. I just saw you ready to jump in here, buddy.
All right, so look at the bracket here. Obviously, you're playing for 5th seed, which means if you win, you're going to take on the Unicorns of Love. It's so difficult because then you face Fnatic in the next one. I think, though, if you are Roccat, if you are Giants here, you want to take that guaranteed top 4 as like your number 1 priority. So you should, of course, aim for that 5th seed where you face Unicorns, which should be an easy opponent than H2K. Not saying Unicorns won't be probably a lot stronger in best out of 5 though, compared to what we've seen here in best out of 1.
And remember, the better you do in playoffs, the more championship points you get, and you still have one more shot after playoffs in that regional qualifier. Deficio smile. See,
I don't know why. I don't know why I stopped in the
you
middle.
just like smiling at me at the desk.
Super excited. There's more.
But yeah, so do well in the playoffs. If you don't make it to Worlds, just from straight up winning it, championship points reach to regional qualifier, and you can still make it then.
Yeah, so Giants and Roccat it is here, and it's quite interesting. Both of these teams were actually in the summer promotion tournament just a couple of months ago. So all in all, for all the critique that we've given them, that is an impressive growth if you look at where they ended up with a playoff spot, at least. Cyanide, what do you think of those two teams, and in comparison to the ones that they left behind now and that they made it to playoffs?
Which teams again?
Giants and Roccat.
I think they're both like alright teams, but like the middle pack is pretty similar in the playstyle. Like they are at the pretty similar level, so it's like hard to compare them in a way, but they are definitely still behind the bottom top 4.
What worries me for Europe is that two teams can go from like almost being relegated, they're gonna have to play to get into the LCS, etc., and then make it into the playoffs this hard, and then have other teams that have potential to grow just fall off and just let them get hopped over. I feel like outside of the top 3 or 4 teams, there's just a lot of stunted progression, and teams are really not going forward all too much, and that worries me. Like, if you ever want to get to Worlds, you got to keep getting better and better at the game, because in the other regions, people are constantly progressing still.
It really is the problem when we just looked at these middle-of-the-table teams. We never felt like there was a favorite among them, because they're always like, oh, you can do really great game 1, and then you fall flat in the next game, and it's been the same inconsistency for all the teams. So looking at Roccat and Giants here, I have no clue who would be the favorite between these teams. I think it's like 50-50. Whoever has, a good game is probably going to take, because both teams have very high highs and extremely low lows, where it's just like you have no clue what's going on.
We are going to try, though, and we're going to start by
I have a clue. I'm just going to tell you.
All right,
right after the roster.
All right, let's start by taking a look at the roster for Giants. Of course, Verlip, Frederick, Pepinero in that mid lane, Adri, Godfred, and their coach Lothak. In the very first game today versus the Copenhagen Wolves, they won with a triple tier comp.
Yeah, this is what worries me, and I think Roccat will actually have the edge, because in their victory, they looked at least a lot more convincing, and I feel like Giants, they got away with murder. If you build 3 tiers, again, you spend 2,100 gold on scaling champions, and you don't get abused in the early game, and then you somehow magically scale up and you end up winning the game, I think you just, it's too much.
But then we look at Roccat yesterday, who lost to Copenhagen Wolves and had such a weird call in the late game. Like, Rocket's main problem, they talk about inconsistency. I feel like it's more like shot calling for them, where there seems to be panic going on. If something goes wrong for them in the early game, it's just complete panic, and they're not really sure how to get back on track. So if Giants gets a good start, I mean, suddenly it's heavily in their favor.
I mean, if Steve didn't teleport on a tower, he clicked on his minimap. If he landed on a minion, they would have won that game. The difference is Giants drafted 3 tiers. Just into a Sivir. Into a Sivir with banning 2 other AD carries. Not only did they give over the Sivir, they banned out the 2 tier 1 AD carries at the same time. So they handed Sivir over on a silver platter, and then they built this really poor early to mid game. So drafting wise, not quite sure, but I'm sure Cyanide has a different opinion.
But I don't actually think like the triple tier is that bad. Like if you go against like Fnatic or Origin or like these top tier teams, then it's way worse. But I feel like a lot of these middle tier and bottom tier teams have a lot of like issues at finishing the games. So it just like you can abuse that fact and friggin' 5 tiers and whatever, you know.
Was that on purpose or not?
That's a lot of tears in there.
Yeah, was that on purpose?
What on purpose?
Okay, never mind. Well, we have touched on Roccat already, so we're going to look at their lineup as well. Of course, Steve, who we've just been talking about, Jankos, Nukeduck, Mr. Riles, Vander, and Yamato Cannon. Well, they beat OG once again, actually 2-0 versus them in the split so far, but that is something that we don't see from them that often. And Vander said in the post-game interview, well, we had to put early pressure down with our AD carry, with our jungle, and then it works. Well, yes.
I'm happy that Roccat seems to find a way to play out the early game, because it's often been a problem. They've been very passive and always just kind of wait for a team to make a move and then they could react, and there's always been a problem for them. However, I feel like Roccat as a team, I want to say pick and ban wise, I'll say I agree with you. I think pick and ban wise, Roccat has the advantage. I just feel like it's so hard to call it in-game, especially because Nukeduck is so important, in my opinion, for this team here. If he has a good performance against Pepinero, I give it to Roccat 100%. But he needs to get the right champion for himself, and then they got to play around him.
All right, thought she was going to jump in. So
Yeah, just they seem to play to the level of their opponents almost. They're 2-0 over Origin in this split, but then once they hit this middle of the pack, you know, where teams are mediocre, the moves aren't really all that planned out, Roccat get like sucked into the chaos and just end up playing that waiting game too. So we might actually see just super slow game.
let's hope it's a super action-packed game and the teams are ready, so let's head inside and get into the draft.
I share the sentiment and I completely agree, Shocks. I would love for this to be an action-packed game. It is, of course, Roccat winning the coin toss. They elected to go on the red side. This is a tiebreaker battle between the two teams that were in the promotion tournament in the spring split. So they've improved exactly 3 positions each.
Well, it's a good spot to be in if you're in either of them, because both teams are playing for the playoff spot, but it's pick your poison. Do you want H2K? Do you want the Unicorns? It's the known of H2K against Unicorns in a best of 5.
And the next step, not only do they pick whether they're going to be fighting against H2K or UOL, their semi-final opponents are Fnatic and Origin. Right, picks and bans coming up. Origin looked fantastic earlier today. Roccat looked fantastic against Origin. Giants beat the Wolves. I won't say much more than that. The triple tier caught Crepo off guard. What are we expecting here?
Well, it's interesting, actually, because both of these teams faced the same team this week. So we now get to see which one of those benchmarks against the Wolves is actually true. Both of them fell behind, and the picks and bans was one of the weirdest things. Both teams gave over Sivir first pick. Both teams had no priority on the Shen. Will either of these teams swap up in this picks and bans phase from what they played just this week?
Well, considering how many top laners have been banned away, it's a possibility, Stress. Italy's been removed from Jankos' hands. Yamato Cannon seems a little puzzled. And remember, these teams are battling for 5th and 6th, top or bottom half of the bracket. Godfred will once again have Morgana banned. That is the 11th Morgana ban that we've seen.
Also banned earlier today. This makes it number 12.
Sorry, that's right.
That's all right. Just making sure we're keeping everything in our minds. This is a very, very tense situation, and Kalista has slipped through the bans phase once again. We've been seeing that a little bit more this week, ever since the changes on patch 5.13. So Giants do make that change. They now get Adri on somebody that has some sense of a safer early game, has the hop now to it, also can pull back Godfred if they look for a tankier support, maybe something like a Nautilus.
It also denies Mr. Riles the Kalista, and Mr. Riles was very important in the victory over Origin earlier today, but we know Roccat will be able to pick up Sivir. It is open, it is available. We've seen that matchup, I think, 3 times today already. And Steve, well look, Steve's Rumble is left a little bit to be desired. 1 win and 3 losses. I don't know. It's good, it's a carry, and it's good that Roccat played decisively against Origin.
However,
but Steve has to show more than he has before.
With Steve on Rumble, they did not play decisively yesterday against the Wolves. They had the better teamfight comp with the Gragas, with the Rumble. Everything about their composition screamed teamfighting, and they refused to do so. They learned it today. They showed us more aggression against Origin when they needed to. Now they've got to face the Giants, who have heavily played poke. It looks like they're kind of drifting away from that. Not the Ezreal here for Adri, and they're not picking up Pepinero's mid laner yet either, so we really have to wait. But that is a Bard. The very first time we've seen Godfred opt for that Bard.
Yeah, and the first time we've seen it this week. Actually, first time we've seen it on 5.13.
Yes.
So, several weeks since we last saw Bard in play. I don't know. We'll have to see how this works out. I do like the idea.
Yes, and I love the duo lane. Bard and Kalista, you basically get yourself a free Kalista ult. You use the Bard ultimate, lock people in place, pull him back in, throw him out, and you get that knock up a guaranteed 100% of the time if you don't screw up. That is the big one. But we'll watch for that as this game goes on.
Guaranteed 100% of the time if you don't screw up. We'll measure that once we get in game, Stress. But we do see the lock-in. So Jankos will be playing Gragas once again. It is his most played champion in the split. And Mr. Rolls has opted for Corki over the Sivir. So we've got an excessive or a lot of magic damage on Rockat's side. Nuke Duck having Jace and Varus.
Varus still up.
One of those is probably what we're going to see.
That's the one he's wanted so much, so Giants can either take it away from him here or give Pepinero a matchup into the Varus that does fairly well. I mean, Victor is an option that we have seen previously, and oh, Giants are going full crazy in this game with, you know, Galio in the top lane. We've seen it a handful of times from the Giants. Well, not from the Giants. We've seen it a handful of times once from the Giants.
Yeah, a handful of times. You're including Challenger Series, of course.
I'm getting ahead of
myself. We've seen it once in LCS. It was Werlib that also played it, and he actually picked up a victory. It was into a very heavy magic composition. We did not get the AD mid laner we were expecting from Roccat. Nuke Duck playing Yasuo. Again, it worked against Origin.
Yep.
Origin arguably a much stronger... No, let me rephrase that. Origin are a much stronger opponent than Giants.
Yep.
Why not?
Well, this time they don't have the Alistair to combo with this. It's not that integral. You still have Thresh, who does have some setup. You have the Gragas to set up the team fights. Now Roccat are going to be relying a lot more on looking for picks plus a flank from Steve if they want to take the team fights. These aren't easy fights to set up. Sivir was available. They didn't opt for it for that extra movement speed. And they don't really have a massive amount of knockups to, you know, coexist with that Yasuo.
I definitely want to watch the laning phase for this particular game, because yesterday when Roccat had the tools to play aggressive against the Wolves, they didn't. Yep. And then because of a poor Rumble teleport from Steve, Roccat ended up losing that game. I mean, I can't say they were going to win it, but that definitely was one of the contributing factors. 2 games in a row, we've got some funky picks. Bard for the first time in Godfrey's hands. Galio for the second time in Werlib's hands. Who will take 5th seed and face the Unicorns of Love? And who will lose and face H2K? Hashtag ROC win or hashtag GIA win? I have no idea.
Nobody even seemed to on the analyst desk either. All it was the triple tier that separated it, and it doesn't look like we're going to get many tiers in this game at all, only just the Varus.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen a Kalista soul-bounding with Galio. I know it doesn't work for laning, but how incredible would the Fates call into Idol of Durand?
That's an ARAM special, but we're not going to see it in this game. However, you do highlight a key thing. Part of the Galio, when we spoke to Werlib about it, is that as long as you can even get close, you can just flash ult people and it works out to your advantage. Now they got the Bard ult to set it up, the Kalista ult to set it up as well, but Werlib is under pressure here.
Vanda, what is he going to skill up? Flash!
Wow.
Force from Werlib. Death sentence from Vanda. Keep seeing those grenades coming out from Werlib, and Roccat with a very deep invade for the vision.
And one of the biggest problems with Galio, especially in this kind of setup, is that typically when he farms in a lane, because he's melee range, if you're against a range matchup, you have to use abilities, which means Galio's abilities for farming are all AoE. So you have to push the wave ever so slightly if you're looking to last hit from a distance. Now that Flash isn't available, if Werlib does have to farm with his abilities, he's going to have to now be very careful for Jankos coming to that top lane.
And of course, Jankos, particularly well known for his early game impact. Opportunities are plenty as the laning phase will be kicking off. Just to remind everybody at home, fortunately due to some curfews in the venue, we have had to ask the audience to leave. So will not be hearing yelling and screaming outside of Stress and myself.
There might be some of that.
Oh, there'll be lots of
depending on how
that.
it goes.
I can promise you.
Obviously, going back to that top lane matchup, Rumble is melee range and also does magic damage. So those are things that still play into the favor of Galio, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Does still have to be careful with regards to those ganks coming up to the top lane, though. So certainly it's on Whirlybee's, or Whirlib, you'll excuse me, Whirlib's own merit for how he can dodge Jankos in this early game.
And talking about dodging, Pepinero is going to have to put on his dancing shoes against NukeDuck's Yasuo. All-in potential is very, very scary. And of course, for NukeDuck, he's going to be looking to trade while he's got that passive shield up, if at all possible. Good on CS for the time being. And we're going to have to take a glimpse at that duo lane. Audrey and Godfrey have already got a CS advantage and seem to be pushing into Mr. Rolls and Vander. So I think lane matchup 2v2, I kind of feel that those bard-empowered autos and the strength of Kalista in lane going to have an advantage.
Oh yes, between the meat damage that's going to come out from Godfred a little bit later. Ooh, hook is landed on Adri.
It does.
That may very well turn a bit of this lane against itself.
Great thresh hook from Vander. Definitely off to a good start. Remember, no flash for Whirlib. Doesn't have Righteous Gust, I don't believe. We'll see if he can get it out. Resolute Smite comes down. Burned alive for first blood.
There we go, the body slam flash that's come out from Jankos. He's hit a good number of those already today. Knew exactly the distance he had to get on Whirlib, and that's the problem with such a, I don't want to say risky pick from Galio because we have seen it work, but it certainly has a lot of lane weaknesses that in a long lane like the top lane really can get punished, and we're seeing it already.
Yeah, unfortunately for Giants, no lane swap this time. The last time we saw that Galio, the wave clear in the 2v1 allowed him to just farm up safely for such a long time. We see Godfred firing out that Cosmic Binding, not connecting on Mr. Rolls, but Rolls and Vander doing a pretty good job of CSing on tower, kind of, picking up a few here and there. But first blood, once again, with the assist of Jankos. And that'll help Steve on this Rumble, somebody who he needs a little bit of a leg up to get going well.
And we've seen what can happen when Steve does get that leg up on the game. We've also seen what happens when he doesn't. He gets focused out by the enemies. Steve has certainly had his fair share of ups and downs ever since joining the Roccat lineup. But certainly, I think this game right now is set up fairly well for Roccat once it opens up into team fights. As long as they press for the team fights, Roccat should be okay, but I'm very interested to see how this Bard is going to continue. I must admit, I've been somewhat underwhelmed by a lot of the Bards we have seen in the European LCS so far. He is a very tricky champion to get working for you properly, but I feel like we haven't seen him enough to tell who really is a Bard master.
Yeah, on the LCS stage, anyway, we did see that NukeDuck is shoved in that lane in middle. Early back from Pepinero means his tier stacking Varus will slowly begin building up some power. Only the single tier champion this time round, as opposed to earlier today where got away with murder, as you will. Godfrey doesn't connect with the Cosmic Binding. And again, Vander and Mr. Rolls just relatively happy to stay back, continue farming up. Gonna wait for that Trinity Force spike. Once we get to that sort of 10 to 20 minute mark, Shiv on NukeDuck, maybe haunting guys for Steve. A lot of damage can come out. Godfred eats a death sentence, connects with a binding, but no stun onto Rolls. Godfred relying on his consumables to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I really want to look at, as this game goes further and further, this Yasuo pick. Second time today for NukeDuck in the middle lane. And, earlier when they were playing it, it was going up against the Twisted Fate that we saw from Origin, this time against the Varus. It will be able to block some of the poke coming out from Giants, some of the engage that they're looking for as well. But it does rely on Wind Wall being available. And that is a very large window of opportunity once it's down. The Giants are going to have to be able to land some of that poke.
26-second cooldown currently for NukeDuck. So I guess he's going to have to try hold that out until Chain of Corruption gets thrown.
Yeah.
But obviously having a tool to counter that ultimate is particularly strong. Frederick going for the Chilling Smite on that jungle enchant. Jankos ranges naturally. And we do also see Frederick showing his face up top. So knowing Jankos is clearing out that pink ward will give Giants some information to play with up top. stun onto Vander, stacking up those rents, drops into 100 HP. Vander holds on to his life, still has a cookie to crunch.
You've got to respect the amount of damage that's going to come from that trading potential. Steve is fishing with harpoons up in the top lane. Going to fish with a ward instead.
Chilling Smite, knockup comes out. Equalizer is going to get pulled out, and Frederick loses half of his hit points. Werlip did not go for the Flash Idol, despite having both available.
And the key thing about that is with his teleport still available, if this game does open up within the next minute or so, that is going to be a big advantage with the team fighting. However, I don't think that is going to be the case. It is still locked into the solo lanes. Frederick wants to come up again. Flash Idol.
Gonna get the knockup. Steve has been pulled into place. Idol of Durand burst, less than 50 HP. One more hit is what it needs. The Prey Seeker secures it. Kill number 1 for Giants. Little
Kill
close.
on the yeah, pretty close there, but the Flash Idol of Durand being used exactly as they wanted to in that laning phase. And, you know, that's one of the strengths, is those flash engages that's going to come from Werlip. But those are difficult to get off as the game opens up. Without the right flank from teleport, there is going to be a real difficult ask for Werlip to get more than 1 or 2 people with that. But again, combo it with the Bard ult, with the Kalista ult, with the Galio ult. Everything is the wombo combo. They have crowd control coming from every single position in their team.
That is terrifying when you put it that way.
And it's all AoE as well. All of it.
AoE CC, we'll find out if it's OP. And just to reiterate what Werlip was saying about the Galio pick in his post-game interview, even if he gets 1 target, it can be enough. Because there's so much chase potential between the Bard, the Kalista, slows from Varus, knockups from Rek'Sai. Doesn't help if Godfrey gets caught by the death sentence. He takes a magical journey. And a pretty easy escape route. And Stress, we saw the Adri and Godfrey again shoving into the tower. Built themselves up nearly a 20 CS advantage. Jaws, knock-up, Chilling Smite comes out. Tempered Fate comes down. Where is Fate's Call? Adri's not pulled that trigger. Rend is slowly stacking up. Fate's Call goes in for the knock-up. Rend is still available. Not going to get the kill, and it's in fact Vander that gets one of the Godfrey. This has gone terribly, terribly wrong for Giants. They started the fight, and they lose the fight.
Incredibly messy for the Giants. I mean, Giants probably should have pulled back away from that fight when they didn't get the Bard stun onto the wall. Godfrey couldn't cut the line back in to make sure that that Cosmic Binding would hit the wall, and they paid dearly with it. They go into a turret. Godfrey was so low on health that as soon as Adri ulted from this, take a look again at Godfrey and the angle he gets on Vander here. They get the knockup, they get the ultimate. Godfrey should be cutting up towards the middle of the lane to bind Vander down after the meet, but he doesn't have any way of connecting that, and Godfrey uses his flash, dies anyway, and my goodness, this is a complete comedy of errors in this bottom lane by Giants.
That was not a terrible teleport from Steve.
No,
Gets
no.
himself a double kill. You could say that Giants should have tempered their aggression. They could have changed their fate. But it was not the case. Roccat also grabbed themselves a dragon. They've got a sizable gold lead. And this is the Roccat that defeated Origin, not the Roccat that lost to the Copenhagen Wolves.
Oh, for sure. This is the Roccat that actually wants to choose the fights that they're looking for, rather than just sit back and wait for fights to come to them. That one was a bit of a reactionary play, but the teleport coming out from Steve was just in the right time, and I didn't quite catch whether Werlip had his teleport up for that, but looked like his ult was down for it when the actual fight went on.
So I'm pretty sure he had it available, but opted not to follow. Got a little bit of damage onto that top tower. We'll see what Werlip can do. The fact that Steve got those double kills means he's come back to lane with the Haunting Guys and Sorcerer Shoes. And Stress, Frederick may be the next victim. Body Slam goes in. Chain of Corruption comes down. This has become a 2v2. Look at that wind wall, blocking off all of the damage. Nukeduck and Yankos do secure a kill. Werlip is teleported down for this one. Tempered Fate does not connect. And Werlip's TP goes a miss.
If the crowd control doesn't fully land from the Giants, they are going to struggle with this composition. And you can see how much the wind wall just completely denies the Giants damage once it's down to only Pepinero coming from one angle. He couldn't close the distance, couldn't get through the wind wall, and Roccat managed to get out of there with their lives. They are looking like they're in a very strong position to claim their ticket to face H2K, which still isn't a fate that I think most teams would want. But Origin then meet UOL, and they will then meet Fnatic otherwise.
That it. Win this game, you place in the top half of the bracket.
Yeah.
That's UOL and Fnatic. Lose this game, then you face H2K and Origin. And you do see Frederick hanging about the bottom half of the lane, gonna opt away. Doesn't see a gank coming in. There's no Thresh Lance to pull him in. Giant side. Nukeduck charging up that flow. Gonna eat one of those piercing arrows. But has his static shiv completed. So on his way to building some attack damage now. Whirlib, most exciting tower killer in the game.
He has good wave clear on Galio, but he has to be real close to do it. But honestly, at this point, Whirlib staying up in that top lane, just pushing the tower through. He didn't even really accrue much of a CS lead, just got some of it back from when he died in lane earlier. So the actual advantage that Steve got from that teleport was way head and shoulders above what Whirlib got in lane.
And I think we have to expand on that wave clear that Whirlib brings to the table. The engage range of Bard, Kalista, Galio, plus the wave clear means Roccat may need to have a sizable lead if they want a siege. Fairly short range on their AD carry. Jankos is going to steal away that Raptor camp, but they're well on their way. Roccat still 3,000 gold up. Rawls and Vander for the first time playing aggressively. Jankos actually misses the explosive cast onto Pepinero.
But the key thing is, gets the flash. On a low mobility mid laner like the Varus there, the flash out is all Jankos needed from that engage. It now puts the pressure on Pepinero. He can't overextend. The ult from Jankos is going to be back up way before that. He's going to come mid again in about a minute and make sure he can capitalize a bit more. Whether it's the tower and more damage on it or whether it's a kill, Roccat should be happy if they bring Jankos back to the mid lane.
Both of them end up being victories for Roccat. Jankos is going to show his face up top. Hasn't needed to help Steve out. Because, well, Steve teleported down and got 2 kills of his own. But Idler Durand is there, so Roccat needs to be a little careful.
I really like the lower side jungle warding the Roccat have right now. They're trying to prevent Bard from getting out of lane and trying to get across the map, when Roccat are putting themselves up on the top side of the map. So what this does is it gives Nukeduck a lot more freedom to push while Jankos shows in the top side. No ult for Jankos here as they're sat in the lane. I don't think they know Frederick is in the back because there are no wards top side for Roccat. So Whirlib is going to be happy just to farm this one out. Waste a little bit of Jankos' time here.
Heal from that Bulwark shield is just ridiculous.
Oh, yes.
Keeping himself so well sustained. Look forward to seeing him build a Spirit Visage as well. Increase the healing even more. And of course, be a little bit away from stacking some more MR. Jankos secures his own blue buff as it has respawned at 15 minutes and we'll start looking for another gank. That explosive cask is available. Stress, you predicted a Jankos gank mid lane to punish Pepinero's lack of flash. We'll see if he agrees.
He's still got some time. I mean, at the same time, it does allow Nukeduck to play more aggressive in the lane as well. It's not all about the ganks, but certainly that is the easy read from Roccat when it comes to where they want to put their pressure on the map. But they could be looking... Again, it also benefits them in this fight that's about to come in 13 seconds time. Well, the fight's not in 13 seconds, the dragon is. That's what's coming up.
It's late in the day.
Yep.
It has been a long one.
I'm excited, Trevor, at all of these the possibilities of tiebreakers, and we only get one.
Now, do want to mention just the relatively deep wards that Roccat have got in the bottom half of the jungle. As you mentioned, Stress, with Dragon coming up, Roccat did invest a couple of wards around the river. Frederick is caught out. He's gone. Those wards paying off allowed Roccat to get their 6th kill and most likely an uncontested dragon.
Yeah, at this point, Frederick not there. No chance of El Bandido at this point. And Nukeduck starts it off himself. He's actually doing very well against that dragon.
Well, he's got a Shiv and a BF sword.
well. I mean,
Dragon secure. I mean, I think that's the third Raptor camp that we've seen Jankos looking to steal. A red buff is going to get nicked as well. And the deep wards, once again, have just been refreshed. Where was this Roccat all split long?
we saw glimmers. We saw flashes of this Roccat. Remember, they have a 2-0 record against Origin. They took down H2K in a game as well. They even, at times, you know, look to be contending against some of the likes of Fnatic. But honestly, they never were able to convert much more than those couple of wins here and there.
I think that's a great point. 2-0 of Origin. And they took down H2K, so...
Where was
every time you stop believing in Roccat, they just find a way to disappoint you. It's something that's happened multiple splits in a row. But this time, of course, same with Giants. Both teams went from promotion tournament in summer to now playoff contenders.
Yeah.
And they'll have the right to upset the apple cart. UOL and H2K both have championship points, much more than... Actually, they have championship points. Giants and Roccat don't.
I mean, they didn't let one of us down last week. You know, I don't like to talk about it too much, but I said that they were going to win 2 games. They haven't let me down yet. I mean, they did win those 2. It didn't account for tiebreakers. We didn't mix that one in. So, or maybe we did. We said that only wins 2. Giants would have to come back.
We did just see Godfred attempted fate, tempered fate gank. It didn't work out. The wave clear and the pushing power is allowing Giants to just chip away at Nuke Duck's tower.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
While that's going on, Nuke Duck has actually secured Rockat's second tower of the game up top.
And a lot of the reasoning behind why Godfred's ult just isn't going to connect very easily if the game remains the same is Roccat are going to be able to see it coming from a mile away. With their vision control, okay, Bard ult has a long range, but it also has a cast time, the travel time that it takes to arrive, and the marker. So as long as you say, hey, there's a Bard on our wards, great, we're in ult range, just be careful.
I think it's a good point you mentioned the wards, because again, Roccat, they're consistently playing the vision game. Roccat have got a pink ward on Giants blue buff. Ring of vision down in the bottom half of the map is playing out, but with Rals getting poked out, the threat of a Galio ulti is very high. So this could be Giants at least securing another tower.
The poke has become a little too much, and Roccat spread themselves too thin, trying to 1-3-1 without really the setup for it. However, they do manage to hold, and a lot of it is because of Nuke Duck going completely out of that top lane. They saw him leave the lane for the Giants, and Giants backed themselves away. They do not want to get flanked by Nuke Duck on this Yasuo, because that's when Giants have a real tough time team fighting, is if they don't have a very obvious goal of get the people in front of us, it starts becoming a problem.
For Roccat, they now have tools. They can play split push. They can look for another dragon fight in the not too distant future. Giants get their hands on their own red buff.
Audrey, I feel, at this point has not really had the time on Kalista since the patch changes. This is one of the only Kalistas we've seen build Bloodthirster after the changes to Kalista and her AD scaling from her ratio. Remember, she only gets 0.9 of the AD that she has, and Bloodthirster, it's worth less on Kalista than it is on any other AD carry. Everybody else has been building Blade of the Ruin King for the active and the additional on-hit that comes from that recurve buff.
Yeah. We'll see if it works out for Audrey. Also, I think he just cleared out the small red buff camps. I was looking at both Frederick and Audrey. Neither of them have a red buff, so I misspoke for just a moment. And Roccat, meaning that one, since they last stole it several minutes ago, it had not been checked. It had not been cleared. Nobody from Giants had touched it. Losing a little bit of focus. And this is something that we talked about coming into this game, Stress, is that Giants, they played the very first game of the day. A long time ago, it feels like. And now, several hours later, we're approaching midnight. We're now battling for seeding against Roccat.
And the seeding, as we alluded to, is very important, because it's not only who do you meet in the quarterfinals, UOL or H2K, it's then who do you go through in the semi-finals, Fnatic or Origin. A win gives you the theoretically easier quarterfinals, although I don't really think I'd want to face Unicorns in a best of 5.
Nor would I. They just played Poppy and Rengar, and if it were any other team, they've done better. For Roccat in this game, however, are committed to the 1-3-1. They're letting Mr. Rolls do the wave clear and pushing in Roccat on Corky. Steve is headed up top, and with all the pressure that Nukeduck has been able to apply, he's now going to push out this bottom wall.
And the reason he's allowed to put so much pressure on is between the warding and the matchup. Whirlib is building full magic resist as you'd want to do on a Galio. You don't want to have to build armor until much later on in the game. However, you're against a Yasuo who is just going to be able to shove that lane. All Galio can do is wait for it. For now, that's all he can do is sit back and just try not to get chunked too hard by Nukeduck.
There ain't nothing wrong with that as far as Whirlib is concerned, because Giants are successfully stalling the game out. They did it earlier today as well. That triple tier comp finally became active. Giants are also working their way to powering up, but Dragon will be up shortly and Roccat have had control up to this point.
And Dragon is the real metronome to this game right now. Giants can only stall for as long as they contest Dragons. If they let 3, 4, and the 5th one go to Roccat, there's no stalling anymore. That is just almost game over unless Roccat make the mistake. Roccat are first to the Dragon here. Look at the flank coming though on the bottom side from Whirlib. Jankos wants to fight at the top.
He will look for it. Tempered Fate will only catch Vander, but Audrey's been burned alive. Steve has successfully teleported in, but he gets shut down by Pepinero. Whirlib fails the flash idol of Durand and nobody gets caught. Nukeduck has held on to his last breath the entire time. The flash Cosmic Binding will secure one more kill. Nukeduck's looking for the knock-up, not gonna find it just yet. He's sweeping blades forward, sweeping blades out before getting taken down. Giants all of a sudden have turned this game on its head, acing Roccat and getting their hands on the Dragon to follow.
The flank from Whirlib looked like it dealt too much damage from the carries. Keep in mind, Pepinero was zoned away by the wind wall for so very long on that fight. Giants, I said as long as they can contend for the Dragons, this one they fight over and they win the fight, even though not everything connected. Look, Audrey's ultimate is still available as well.
So was Nukeduck's. That whole fight started with a knock-up onto Audrey.
Let's take another look, though, at exactly how the carries. Watch Mr. Rales. He's got actually Dragon aggro for so long in this fight. He gets chunked just before the wind wall ends up going up. And that is the key factor here. Nukeduck and Mr. Rales get chunked so hard to begin this that even though Whirlib would have liked to have hit that ult, he chased them out so far that it's an easy chase from Giants. Godfred, Whirlib, and Frederick are almost untouched in this fight. And from there, Nukeduck is trying his best, gets the knockup but dies. Could not quite get his ultimate off. Would have been a fight-turning ultimate, could not get the timing.
I still feel he should have done it early. Get rid of Audrey in the beginning of the team fight. There was so much damage. Anyways, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Rockat's gold lead has shrunk. Dragon picked up. Going on a magical journey. Godfred's going to get the stun against the wall, but Jankos is uber tanky. He's got the... Oh, that's a double-tempered fate. Idol of Durand will be up in a minute or two. Equalizer comes down from Steve. Death Sentence connected as well. The Chain of Corruption goes wide. No, I lied. Connected onto Steve, as does the Cosmic Binding. Audrey's going to rend for a kill. And Giants, they've now lost their mid laner. Pepinero's down. Last breath is available.
Nukeduck was so far down on the bottom side of the map that that's just a fight that Giants will take every day of the week. I want to see whether he crossed vision. There was only really one ward on the Dragon Pit. I wonder whether he strayed down into the bottom lane there and just showed himself, because Giants, they've been kind of given an easy way back into this game by Roccat just not respecting their positioning on the map.
All of the proactive plays that Roccat have put together during the laning phase have been undone in the last 5 minutes. Giants are now sieging up under Rockat's tower, and the wave clear of Mr. Riles is being tested. Here comes Steve for another teleport. He's come in behind.
He's no
Equalizer's not available, but he can roast them with the Rylais and the Leandries. Nukeduck's got an Infinity Edge and a Shiv. Double kill picked up already. Whirlib interrupted with the Steel Tempest. The Idol of Durand doesn't even channel.
He didn't even need the ultimate from Steve to be able to take that fight. And you could see, again, it's another mispositioning on the map. Frederick's up in the top side trying to push the wave out. And this game right now is being put onto a seesaw by the fact that Giants and Roccat are making positional mistakes across the map and allowing the enemy team to take team fights that realistically they shouldn't be able to take.
And it's awesome to watch. Steve has had excellent teleports this game. And an interesting build as well. So this is that replay of the mid lane fight.
So, Frederick was actually in the fight and bails out. That's what it was. It was the health buzz and Nukeduck being back in the base. So Frederick actually, from this fight, just pieces out and says, I'm going to go farm. Here's the interrupt. Just about got the channel out before it was so rudely interrupted by Nukeduck. But that's what Roccat needed at this position. 7-1-0 on this Yasuo right now.
Infinity Edge, Shiv, and Bloodthirster already. And no armor to speak of. Look at Giants. Ninja Tabby. That's it. That's the armor item for the team. So I think Nukeduck is going to do a metric boatload of damage, assuming he doesn't get insta-give. That's the trick, right? Giants will be looking for Tempered Fate or Fate's Call or Chain of Corruption, something to hold him down.
Roccat have group mid though at this point. They can probably with the minion wave, which is a long way back actually. They won't be able to push the tower at this point. Steve knows it. He's headed down bottom to clear some wards and the crab at this point. But Roccat forced to back away. That's a Tempered Fate used once again by Godfred. Nukeduck splits up, Steve splits up, and the Giants are waiting patiently in the mid lane.
So 1-3-1. Looking like they want to initiate again. Flash and Idol is available for Werlib. Actually, Giants, they've started this. They know the teleport's not available, so Steve is very far away. Thing is, if Jankos gets a good explosive cast, Nukeduck could be on for an explosive last breath. 24 stacks of Rend had been accrued on Baron before Giants opted to back away. And just look at the gold lead. Roccat now sieging down their 4th tower of the game. Wow, it's really all been Roccat until Roccat made a mistake and then fixed the mistake as well.
Yeah, you can see exactly where the mistakes across the map have come from Roccat here. But it's opening the game up for Giants. Giants, if they hadn't have gone for Baron there and had just looked to attack, oh, Godfred's caught.
He is caught indeed. Fate's Call pulls him out. That's going to avoid so much damage. Equalizers on the back, and the Idol of Durand was massive. The shutdown kill onto Nukeduck. They've traded 1 for 1. Top for mid. A long distance Lantern pulls Vander Steve and rolls away. But a magical journey will connect to the Cosmic Binding. Frederick, you may not have wanted to follow. He tears Chunk down, but Audrey with a death sentence. Flame Splitter. Audrey's flashed forward. He's got one. He's looking for another. That's a double kill for him. Jankos gets tagged by the piercing arrow, and Giants win another team fight.
Great hook from Vander to hook Audrey, but Audrey manages to flash over the other side and avoid a lot of what Roccat had to throw. They're not done yet!
No, they're not! The Rend will give Audrey yet another kill. 5-3-1. Giants are closing the kill lead, closing the gold gap, and maybe looking for Baron this time.
They're a little bit low at this point, Trevor. Okay, there's no Steve, there's no Mr. Rales, there's no Vander right now. Jankos is en route, Nukeduck is en route as well. Giants are going to drop fairly low off this, but Nukeduck is more concerned with jumping his way to the mid lane. Can he get to that Baron in time? Look at how low Giants are. This is really looking like a quadra kill waiting to happen if Nukeduck can get it. Giants are splitting up though.
Nukeduck's looking for more. He does have flash available. In fact, I take that all back. He just wanted to kill him.
He just wants the pick.
Gets the ward. Giants even up the gold and get Baron.
So it was I don't want to say it was a good start because you go on the only person that can be pulled out of that ultimate at that point. From this, the Idol of Durand hits multiple people, and the Giants just kite around the rest of the fight. Steve gets locked down by Pepinero, and from there, that was pretty much all she wrote. Bit of an interesting journey here.
If this flash from Audrey is what a Bloodthirster Hurricane Kalista looks like, maybe the build can still work. I also think Audrey was knocked far enough away that the Yasuo ultimate did not trigger on Audrey. But I will have to double check that with some Yasuo mains. Dragon was, however, secured by Roccat. And that makes it the 3rd of the game. So small solace for Roccat.
Keep in mind that, you know, we saw a lot of Bloodthirster first out of Kalista's.
Oh.
Nukeduck. Oh, there's something about a creek and a paddle at this point.
That
this
is the
bottom
case.
lane.
Tempered Fate misses once more. Nukeduck's got a lot of mobility. Not going to turn that one around. Fate's call. That's been pulled. The rest of Roccat, they're barreling down the middle lane. Nukeduck's going to run into the rest of his team. Oh my word, do we have another base race on our hands?
Well, look at bottom
Giants, inner turret on the bottom lane. Roccat, a 5-man stacked in the middle, and they are facing Baron-empowered minions. But there's nothing to work with here for Giants. There's no minions down bottom. Nukeduck killed them all on his great chase a few minutes ago. And as it stands, Roccat have decided to peel away. Wow, Preyseeker missed. Easiest shots are the most difficult to hit. I said that before, I'll say it again.
Both teams pulled back for a little bit, but Giants chose to stick around a little longer. Roccat have now regrouped. There is a big wave in the top side. Looks like Nukeduck was thinking about going up to deal with it, but they'd rather keep the Giants occupied on the bottom side. Tower has gone down to the swing-like sounds of the Yasuo Arctic Ops firing away. Sounds like it needs a bit of WD-40.
And of course, for Pepinero's Varus, he also picked up that Frozen Mallet, so non-traditional item build, at least at this stage in the game. We'll need to get some sustain built up. Giants, 5 towers to 4, 500 gold up. First time in a long time. And a lot of that is stemmed from the Baron that they secured and the pushing it has enabled them.
Yankos
is looking for the knock-up. Last Breath wasn't used, but it will in a moment. Tempered Fate goes up. That's going to stun up too. Idol of Durand has caught Nukeduck. That means Nukeduck's down. It may not matter though. Roccat have found themselves 3 kills. They're looking for Peppy. They will find Peppy. Steve's Rumble is just tearing Giants apart.
Absolutely, and the key thing to keep in mind, it's the same with the Zhonya's Hourglass. Rumble will continue to deal damage with the Flame Spitter if he's hit by the Bard ultimate, and that's exactly what happened. Audrey pulled in Godfred for a very short range Fate's Call into the ultimate coming from Bard as well. Keep your eyes on exactly how much damage Steve is doing at this point. Here's the pullback after the ultimate coming from Gragas to keep Godfred safe from the hook, but Audrey is the one that gets hit. Look at them just take the damage from Steve at this point and end up falling. At that point, Roccat have the numbers advantage. It's an easy fight to close out. Pepinero had not enough left in the tank. And that is Roccat re-establishing their lead for now, but you cannot underestimate the momentum that Giants just managed to regain before that team fight.
29 kills in 34 minutes. That's the order. And no sign of it stopping anytime soon. Inhibitor turrets are still standing. Banner of Command for both Vanda and Godfred. So we're going to see Banner-empowered siege minions do battle with one another. I sincerely hope we can catch that on the observation machines. And Dragon and Barrow will be respawning soon, so you have to feel that those will be where the team fights will take place, because both Giants and Roccat have got pretty good wave clear, pretty good counter siege, but are both fully invested in fighting.
I'm sorry, I'm cracked up over the way you said observation machines. You call people on your cellular phone?
Cellular telephone, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I guess you are the expert of ye olde technology at this point, Trevor. I mean, there are a couple of years between yourself and I, but not meaning to, you know.
Well, I am officially the oldest caster on the team, so yep, it is tough. Regardless, this is the side lane pushing that we were expecting. Nukeduck, nobody can really deal with him. QSS as his next offensive item. Literally no one can deal with him, so tower secured.
And the QSS is such a massive factor for this, because we've already seen how Nukeduck can interrupt the Idol of Durand. This is something we saw in Challengers series. That's a decent Tempered Fate, but all it's doing is stopping the push. I mean, nobody there to follow up. They saved the tower for now. But this is something we saw in Challenger series when Mouse ran the Galio. If you can just get one person out of that Galio ult, interrupt it. That was what Perks did with the Jace, just knock Galio back. It completely reduces the effectiveness of Whirlip. A little bit more difficult on a Yasuo. You have to have the knock-up prepped. So it's on Nukeduck to make sure things are all set in stone before the Gargoyle manages to catch them.
The way Nukeduck has been playing, I don't think that will be too much of a problem. Steve has teleport available, and pretty deep vision. Look on the minimap. Towards the red buff of Giant's side of the jungle, there are little red spots. So Roccat will be able to respond. 10 seconds till Dragon, 30 seconds till Baron. And both teams have made concerted efforts. Chain of Corruption will catch Jankos. He's going to find the Lantern to get away. Nukeduck's looking for a flank. Thank you, Observer Machines. We're highlighting the range Banner of Command empowered minion. That will be pushing up top in favor of Roccat. Nukeduck's still looking for a flank, but he's not going to find one yet. Dragon's up Baron soon.
This would be the fourth one for Roccat, but they're kind of stuck in their base right now. Although the problem here for Giants is with that Banner of Command working in the top lane and bottom lane already being shoved in towards them, Giants have no wave control right now, or wave management on that bottom side.
Werlib has been caught out, but he manages to channel the Idol of Durand. QSS was used by Nukeduck and he dashes away. Audrey's in trouble. He's staying alive for a few seconds longer. Will continue to lifesteal, but it may not be enough. Nobody has died yet. A magical journey will put some distance between Giants and Roccat. But Audrey gets caught. The long-range hook. He's the only victim of the fight so far. Roccat 1 for 0. And the pick of the litter, Jankos, will he find Werlib? He does. May not want that fight. Ghostblade's been used, but here comes Nukeduck and the rest of the team. 3 members of Giants in enemy territory. Teleport actually as well coming out from Steve. He's going to look for more Giants on the wrong side of the territory. Magical journey into Cosmic Binding means that Jankos will be delayed in securing this kill. And great Cosmic Binding once more. One more journey.
Nice
into
try.
Rolls' auto attack.
Nice try out by Godfred, but they were caught behind enemy lines. Roccat just showing superior counter engage from this Yasuo, from the Gragas as well. Every time Giants look to step forward, they manage to blast somebody into their midst. And then it's on Giants to try and find these AoE ultimates, but they haven't been able to right now. And Steve is taking a timeout. Gonna dance on the ward. This is something that there we go. Roccat now are gonna know that that was the case. Frederick is in behind.
The Bandit is waiting to try and steal once more. Tunnels in.
He gets it!
The Bandit steals the Baron. 22 kills to 12. Roccat are 4,000 gold up, and the Bandit, he strikes once more.
Giants, are they the masters of tiebreakers? Pepinero is cracking up at this one. Keep in mind, one of the Baron steals we highlighted was in a post-regular season tiebreaker against MYM to stay in the LCS. And he's done it again. He's only gone and done it again on 3, boys. Doesn't get the smite. Does not get the smite for Roccat. Giants pick it up.
Now, what can Giants do with Baron? They've grouped up top. Werlib does not have Flash available. Does have an Hourglass and does have the Idol. Giants already got themselves a kill. Audrey, you're done. He gets knocked back. Well played. Flash cask from Jankos.
I'm still calming down a little bit off that, and seemingly Audrey is as well, because they pushed up, and it's not over yet for the Giants. They are getting chased down. Roccat can still pile a bit of pressure on as this is going. Frederick is going to look to push out the bottom lane and finally start to control some of the wave management for Giants now that they got this Baron buff, but they are without their AD carry with it, so the numbers still in the advantage for Roccat for the next 30 seconds.
We'll see if Giants can hold off. Their wave clear is primarily between Werlib and Pepinero, so they should be able to. Tempered Fate will only catch Steve. Not the greatest of stall tactics. Here comes Peppy. Chain of Corruption gets blocked by the wind wall. Pepinero's poke does as well. Tower secured. I hadn't taken into account how powerful the wind wall would be in that siege. Roccat demonstrates. Inhibitor is going to stand tall for now. A few seconds longer before that flash is available. Werlib's Distortion Boots doing work.
These Tempered Fates have not done really anything to slow Roccat when they've been in front of a tower. Keep in mind that Tempered Fate can hit towers. If you want to stall out a tower, clear the wave behind it. I mean, it's not something we'll see all that much in competitive play. We don't see a lot of Bard as it is. But, you know, Godfred could look to change up his strategy ever so slightly. Frederick actually didn't manage to turn that bottom lane around. It's a big wave shoving in towards the Giants' base.
Yeah, the amount of pressure Roccat were applying middle and he needed to back. So Audrey is going to deal with this. There is that banner-empowered siege minion, along with, I think, 2 more, actually. A lot of sieges have been built up. Audrey's going to go get himself a whole bunch of gold, try to claw back that 5,000 gold deficit that Giants currently find themselves in. But the big battle that will take place next will be over Dragon number 5. It should be respawning in the next 3 minutes, if memory serves correctly. And that means that for Giants, they have to get both Steve and, well, they just have to get a good engage with that idol.
They've had a couple, but they've also had a couple miss. That's been one of the biggest problems, is now you have to rely on Roccat getting caught by a flank or Roccat setting up one of their own. Teleport not quite available, but look at the ward line down the middle lane. There's about 4 or 5 sections of this middle lane where Roccat can look to pick a fight using Steve coming from the base when the teleport becomes available. So Giants have not swept the breadcrumb trail behind them.
20 seconds until Steve is able to TP in. 1 minute 40 until Dragon is going to be spawning. A reminder, this is the tiebreaker battle for 5th and 6th position. The winner faces UOL and Fnatic. The loser faces H2K and Origin. And as it stands, Roccat are ahead in kills, gold, and dragons. So in theory, they're leading this game, is what I would surmise.
We've also seen Roccat be in this situation before, where in theory, they're leading the game. It happened yesterday against the Copenhagen Wolves, and they couldn't close out. Willip is closing in. Tempered Fate hits nobody again. Roccat look to engage on their own.
Jankos might be able to. Last Breath didn't find a target despite the explosive cask being used. Pepinero dropped below half. Godfred has come into the magical journey. They've caught Jankos temporarily. Chain of Corruptions is going to start spreading and holding at least Nukeduck in place. Nukeduck's going to flash defensively. Whirlip goes golden from the Hourglass. Pepinero is knocked up, but again, no ultimate from Nukeduck. They've traded 1 for 1, mid for top. Giants are starting to peel away. Banner-empowered minions will take a tower up top. Vander's going to be super happy with that. And look at the siege cannons. They're building up. Giants have to respond and defend. Another team fight, trades 1 for 1.
Audrey could stick around to do the Dragon at this point. 19 seconds on that Dragon coming out. Actually, look at how fast Roccat are making it out of their base right now. The problem is, this is a Dragon the Giants have to fight for. They absolutely have to. And look at how much they're struggling already to just deal with the minion waves put in front of them. The rest of the team is crossing over. No real tunnels in the pit. There is one behind. Will Steve clear it out on his way past? It's going to be very key not to let Frederick in. He's ulted into the bottom lane. Roccat, they're pulling back. Giants are closing in for the fight. If they can steal this away, they put the timer back onto Roccat for 6 minutes.
We're going to a smite fight. Rend plus Frederick. This should be in favor of Giants. It will be in favor of Giants. Roccat have foregone the objective. Dragon number 2 at the 45-minute mark.
And how much will this punish Roccat? They made the same decision in yesterday's game, not to fight over a Dragon that would have put them well in the lead against the Copenhagen Wolves. The decision that followed from Roccat was an attempted Baron, which shook from the Wolves, stole away, and gave Copenhagen Wolves the win. Are we going to be in a repeat position for Roccat when it comes to their decision-making?
Guess we'll find out. Because one team has to win. Roccat still, again, maintain the lead. They do have an additional tower. They also have an exposed inhibitor. So if Giants make a misstep, if Giants make the same sort of mistake, Roccat have a slightly easier time at finishing the game out. And Giants will be the one to stop. This teleport is available for Steve. He may be joining too late. There's a ward in the pit here for Roccat. those Ren stacks are really starting to pile up. It's up to 14. Tempered Fate connects with no one. Baron's down to 4,000. Audrey's Bloodthirster shield's been caught. He's been pulled up. He's been killed. Mr. Rolls is going to get the credit. Baron is being peeled away. 3,000 HP. Whirlip's down. Idol of Durant did nothing. Defensive flash from Pepinero. Mr. Rolls has been exhausted. Pepinero's going to try stay alive, and it will not work. 1 for 3. Frederick's being forced away. Roccat will not make the same mistake in the same game. And Roccat may be looking for an inhibitor.
Yeah, they can push down the middle lane here. We already saw the inhibitor get cracked open from that tower falling earlier, and Roccat, they don't fall into the same trap as yesterday, but it's Giants that go for the Baron. Seemingly, Baron is their friend when the enemy team are trying to do it. The Giants seem to realize the game is over here as Roccat are pushing their way into the base. Roccat look like they're going to be able to take the higher seed.
Roccat take down Origin to force the tiebreaker in the playoffs. Roccat take down Giants on their way to securing the 5th seed in the summer split. And that means they will have a shot at the Unicorns of Love in a best of 5 quarterfinal in 2 weeks' time. It's different with no crowd. Mr. Isles, Nuke Duck, Steve. Whatever happened to let them play the way they did against Origin and Giants today needs to happen again and again. Because today's games are the best we've seen all split.
I don't think I can disagree with that, Trevor.
And summarize that, just say I agree.
I don't disagree. At this point, though, I think the marked improvement that's come from Roccat has been spearheaded by perhaps the Nuke Tech that we've heard about for so very long actually showing up. Game by game, I don't think Nuke Duck's really had a bad game in the last 3-4 weeks, maybe 1 or 2 here and there, but he certainly looked, so much better than the beginning of the split.
I would be inclined to agree. And when Nuke Duck is playing more aggressive, when Nuke Duck is trying to make plays, all of a sudden Roccat do come to life. There's still problems to work through, in fact, for both of these teams, and they're going to have difficult quarterfinals against UOL and H2K. But that's the story of the middle-of-the-table teams here in Europe. They need to settle down and resolve the problems. So with that, we're going to take a look at how Roccat secured 5th place over at the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Well, indeed, Roccat victorious in the end and securing that 5th place spot going into the playoffs. Honestly, I really thought Giants were going to do it again. And again, just how do teams keep giving them this little edge, and how do Giants always find it?
I mean, credit to Frederico El Bandito for stealing that one. It was blind, then he put in the ward just as he tunnels in and he smites it. So fantastic play from him. Overall, though, Roccat, I think, pick and ban-wise, had a strong composition here. I like the Yasuo last pick a lot from Nuke Duck, especially because there was the Galio and you're like, hey, we're going to count all your magic damage. Here's a Yasuo in your face and just shut down the poke comms.
I think having Yasuo in your pocket going into playoffs later on with all these poke champions in the mid lane, if not all those control mages where Windwall is just a potent tool, combine that with the Braum some people have been playing, you can completely alter the way the game is played. But then you have to play clean cut, and that's something where Roccat did fail. They sometimes had these engages where Body Slam Flash went in, Explosive Cast went in, and then you could see literally Nuke Duck was pressing R, but he was out of range, and then everything goes down.
Yeah, it was kind of sad that he never managed to get a good Yasuo ult, even though like he got really fed. But it always felt like sometimes Nuke Duck was even trying to flash in just to reach the Gaga's ultimate, but they couldn't. Like I liked the Kalista Alistar way more in the previous game today. Like it was super easy to set up. It was actually really clever because you grab the Alistar and you shoot him, and that knocks up. And if it's not enough, then Alistar you have the Q. Yeah, that was really good.
I'd almost forget there was a Bard in this game. We were super excited about it. What is your score out of 10?
I don't believe in scores. I was just... There's so much more potential to this champion, especially in lane. Using that ultimate Tempered Fate, especially against low mobility champions, plays around the map. There's just wait. Someday somebody will unlock the unlimited potential that Bard holds. For now, Godfred, he tried, and there's bonus points.
He had some pretty good moves actually.
He did have. I mean, had a few good stunts, but kind of weird pick. We haven't seen Bard really in like 5-6 weeks. I want to say in the EU LCS, everyone was like almost on the hype train. and then it just kind of died out.
I think I started the hype
You
train.
kind of
Yeah,
did.
oh my God.
I'm like, guys, Bard is so
Doctor.
strong, and they're like,
All the hats.
Surprised about the pick, but he also got punished. I mean, we got a replay. We were talking about how the Yasuo pick didn't always get to the right targets. This time around, he does manage to punish Godfred on this body, but like,
Fate Skull, nope, disappears. That was actually the one fight that actually went really bad for Roccat, and that's just shows why you probably shouldn't do that against a bound Bard, you know, on the support if you just get that one ultimate off. But this is the follow-up. This is why Bard is a fantastic sport. You'll go in, flash away, don't even look at the people you're stunning, and it just shows that you can carry a team fight as a support.
but we just saw this so often in this game here, back and forth team fights. You know, if Roccat got the great ulti setup with Nuke Dog, he would like carry the team fight. Varus would die instantly, and then whenever they just only managed to lock down, again, the Bard didn't even manage to kill him. Obviously, they couldn't win the fights, and it was just very back and forth in that case. But it's been like this all split long. The thing about these teams, they're so close in level, and it's just like who has the right moment or the right day, they should take the win. And this time around, it was Roccat.
I just hope for playoffs coming up that these teams, they get now 2 weeks of practice and then want to play towards that. And even if they're similar in skill, usually if you put two good teams against each other, one gets ahead, the win will be clean. Problem today was you put two teams of equal skill against each other. Very few wins were very, very clean.
Well, all said and done, 90 games behind us, not counting this one in the summer split. We're going to take a look at the standings as it is now. Well, for sure, who we'll be seeing there in the playoffs. Of course, Fnatic and OG securing that bye. Then H2K, UOL, Roccat, and Giants all in the playoffs. And at the bottom of the standings, well, once again, Elements and then Gambit, SK, and the Copenhagen Wolves.
And Copenhagen Wolves dropping out of relegation is a fact. 10th place team will drop out. First place team in Challenger will make its way up into the LCS. Those matches will be played later, so it will be interesting to see who's joining these teams for 2016, I believe, then spring split. Do we math correct?
Yes,
That's how years
math
work.
time. Yeah.
Hey, we're tired. It's been long.
I mean, I'm looking at Gambit here, going down to the promotion tournament. They looked so good coming into, you know, the last few weeks, and obviously the whole Forgiven thing happened, but I think they're going to be fine in the promotion tournament. They should get back into the spring split, keep Sean as a coach, obviously, and keep working and see where this leads you, because a lot of the other teams were really respecting Gambit a lot, so I'm sure they're going to bounce back.
I mean, Forgiven is suspended for 2 more games, so a scenario could happen when they go 0-2. Forgiven walks up the stage, sure goes on, put me in, coach, for game 3, and brings it back 3-0 in a row with just Lucian picks only. So, scenario, the dream is alive, technically.
Yeah.
Hopefully for Gambit, it doesn't get to that point.
And Elements, no dream. Also no nightmare, but once again in 7th. And I mean, we're going to talk about this a lot in times to come, as we'll be seeing them in the spring split of 2016, but in what capacity? I mean, there are some question marks there still for Elements. If you look at the players on that lineup, you would expect that they might be able to go a little higher.
I just think like the players in Elements are really failing to show up. Like it's mostly Froggen taking the team kind of on his back when they are winning, and they're just really lacking the playmaking element, because like Froggen playing these poke champions, and I just feel like they're not really doing anything most of the games.
They just seem to be stuck.
Yep.
I mean, it's been like this all year long. We see a few improvements here and there, but just not enough to really take them to another level. And then it always just seems to fall back and like, what can Froggen do, or what can Dexter maybe do in the early game? I think they're going to look at the lineup and be like, okay, what can we do? Is this a lineup we need to obviously return to the throne potentially? Now you gotta find Fnatic up there somewhere, so they're pretty far away, but this is a team that was built to win the EU LCS. That's not been the case this season. They're going to have to figure out what to do for next season for sure.
Yeah, a lot to theorize about. Someone who did step up today, though, on the final day of the summer split was SK's Candy Panda. He seized their last opportunity to make a splash in the 2015 Fantasy LCS. He earned 11 kills and 7 assists earlier today to keep the Elements out of the summer playoffs, racking up a total of almost 39 fantasy points. Good on him, Candy Panda. Again, SK Gaming as well, we heard Freddy say, you know, the future we will see. A lot of question marks up in the air. But looking at the performances we saw here in week 9, we've chosen 5 OP pros that gave their all in the final days of the split. And well, honestly, if we look at the split in general and these last 2 days, once again, there is no one else that we could give it to than the members of Fnatic, starting off with Huni today with a fantastic Rise performance, 19 kills, the most in week 9, and of course, Rainover always there to back him up.
Yeah, he actually had 22 assists. That was the most for junglers this week. And then following Rainover, obviously the rock for Fnatic is Febivim. He played super well as well. 11 KDA, highs for the mid laners. Obviously, Fnatic has been dominating.
Yeah, and then bot lane as well, Reckless replacing Steelback. Every time he was needed to carry, he showed up. Yellowstar in the end the captain, the guy who created the team, the shot call, everything. I mean, insane KDA
Yeah,
as well.
it's
Highest KDA in both EU and NA LCS.
Yeah, if you would have told me this week, yeah, Yellowstar will have the highest KDA at 30, I'll give you that on Trundle. I mean, point fair, it has been played in other regions, but not to this success. And I will still have to see whether this is the new pocket pick for playoffs or whether this was just experimenting.
Side-eyed, well-deserved. The OPs for Fnatic. What an impressive run so far.
I guess they're all right at League of Legends.
Yeah, they are really well. Well, outside from the OP pros, we also want to credit one individual who took the summer split by storm, setting the pace for the entire league in the drive towards Worlds 2015. That's Fnatic coach Daylor. I mean, we've seen it in Life of Legends episodes. We've heard him talking a lot. We see him interacting with the players all the time. And what he has brought to Fnatic, we can't put our finger on it, but it unquestionably has been a fantastic impact.
For me, it's in the little things. Having been around in the scene so many times, seeing multiple owners and coaches taking to the leadership, the way he interacts with his players and the way he even interacts with people outside, he seems very focused on his job, just brings natural leadership, very, very calm person, always on the background, just doesn't even want to make a name for himself. His main priority is his team, and it definitely shows in interactions I've had with him, interactions he's had behind the scenes. What you see on camera in Life of Legends, that's also not an act. Daylor is involved everywhere, just a fantastic person, and good on Fnatic as an organization for finding him and picking him up, because we always talk about how there are no coaches in League of Legends and we can't find them, and there's this joke that we're recycling all pros over and over, but then somebody with the background actually steps up and does so fantastically with his young and new roster.
And I think right now, the fantastic thing for Europe and NA, like the Western scene in general, is we can look at Fnatic.
Yeah.
What is Fnatic doing, and can other teams try and copy it? Before, it was always look to Korea. I mean, like, how are the infrastructure built up here? Fnatic found a way that worked
They got 2 Koreans though.
They got 2 Koreans. That helps. But hey, look at Fnatic. Look at the setup they have with Oliver as well, the manager for the team. It's just working so well for them.
Yeah, dreaming of Worlds already a little bit. We're not there yet, though. The 6 teams here in the European LCS who qualified for playoffs will do battle for the summer #1 European seed and the ever-important pot of championship point up for grabs. Taking a look at our now completed bracket. Well, Fnatic, they are looking pretty good, and a lot of people could say that they would make to the finals. Who do you guys see as the dark horses maybe in that?
I mean, so H2K... 3rd place. They've been a top 3 team all split long. They've been a bit of a slump. I think we're going to see them bounce back. I obviously heavy favorites against Giants. It's hard to count out Unicorns of Love, but I do want to say I almost feel like Roccat has a higher chance of winning that game. And now, don't kill me for that one, but that's just a feeling.
I think the next 2 weeks will do a lot for H2K, more than it would for Giants, and as well do more for Roccat than it would for UOL in terms of practicing. So I definitely want to see how these teams come and show up at the playoffs, because hopefully it'll be slightly different than it was today. And also I wonder how this meta shifts, because whenever people go in the dark for 2 weeks, new picks get made in scrims potentially. You find you then find new counters to those new picks, and then suddenly you get to the Rift and you have teams playing complete different compositions all of a sudden, because they obviously haven't played against each other.
What about your boys, OG, in the playoffs?
It's going to be a struggle. I think they will make it to the finals against Fnatic, and yeah, that is indeed a struggle to beat unbeatables. But I think if there's any team in Europe that can do it, it will be my boys, as you put it.
All right, cool. Well, whatever happens, the action will start on Saturday, August the 8th, with a best of 5 between H2K and Giants, starting at 5 p.m. Central European Summer Time. That is 8 a.m. Pacific. And while we fill the seats on stage in the summer playoffs, there are still some available to join us and watch the action live in person. For more information, head over to lolesports.com/tickets and come join us and watch those teams go head-to-head. While our bracket is filled out here in Europe, there's still work to be done over in North America. Week 9 gets underway in Los Angeles this Saturday with a clash between Team 8 and Liquid. Dignitas will face Counter Logic Gaming, and Gravity will take on Team Impulse, who are just 1 game back from 1st place. Anyone look forward to a specific matchup?
Oh, we gotta look at Team Solo Mid with everything that's been going on lately.
You always are, yeah.
I mean, always looking towards Bjergsen and Centurion, seeing what they're doing, representing Denmark.
The jawlines overseas. All right. Well, that all starts on Friday, July 31st. Sorry, on Friday, July 31st at 9 p.m. Central European Time, noon Pacific. We actually have a special show match on the new Black Market Brawlers mode that will be taking over Summoner's Rift soon. Well, they're completely decked out.
What a bunch of hoodlums.
It's,
What a
it's not
bunch of-
Photoshop, by the way. That's a real picture. It's not
That's
Photoshopped
a
at
real
all.
picture. Obviously, mark your calendars. It is sure to be a bloodbath. Well, with that, that is all for us here on this side of the Atlantic. I'd like to thank Cyanide for joining us, Hands for joining us to close out the summer split. I'm going to make it. And on behalf of everyone here at the European LCS, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you back here for playoffs.
Yay! It's a do-or-die game for both teams in this one. But last here really puts the pressure on, especially on the Giants.
That's every hook on him. He is not quite down yet. However, Lenny is going to try to be safe, but he finally falls. And they have knocked the Copenhagen Wolves out of the LCS.
They are. Lulex has knocked back Betsy. Betsy's gone in with the hammer. Hex Drink is only going to keep you alive a millisecond longer, but that's enough to take out Ryu. The convincing ending over Gambit earned themselves a confidence boost. Candy Bandits heals it! The first dragon of the game! Candy Bandits given SK one more tool!
Oh, get him.
Nice.
Get him.
SK Gaming will give Elements their 11th loss of the summer split.
Yeah, I'm super tired.
Just look at Ryu.
Yeah.
He's so
It's
energetic.
yeah,
Look
it's
at
always-
Ryu for energy.
Yeah.
Just absorb it.
And again. Nexus. Only hit Nexus.
Nexus.
Roccat, with this win, will secure themselves a playoff berth.
Idol Durant did nothing. Defensive flash on Pepinero. Mr. Rolls has been exhausted. Pepinero's gonna try stay alive and it will not work. Roccat take down Giants, securing the 5th seed.
And Fnatic secure that perfect split for themselves, or will the Unicorns of Love trample their hopes? Nearly taken down, Reckless valks his way to a kill, and now a double for Huni, a double for Reckless, the first team in LCS history, 18-0!